All right, we're ready to begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Park Board meeting. I appreciate your all attending this evening. It is May 3rd, 2023, 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. For the additions or deletions to the agenda, I would motion that we move item 9A and item 8A after public comment this evening. Are there any, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to amend the agenda as written or as presented. Introductions and announcements. We have members in our City of Lacey City Hall. So we'll start over on the left.
My name is Cody Lee. I'm the recreation supervisor that oversees community recreation.
And I'm Lauren Young. I'm the newest rec coordinator under community recreation.
Me too.
I am co-charter Commissioner Good.
Gary Larson, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Isaiah Lamote, Public.
Bill Fosbury, Commissioner.
Park Board Chair, Commissioner Goodwin.
Sue Baylash, Recreation Manager.
I am Jen Burbidge, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation for the City of Lacey. And over here we have.
The Finance Director.
Online, we have.
I'm Aaron Wheeler, Parks Commissioner.
And it looks like we have one for public comment or somebody that's online.
We do have someone joining us online and during the public comment section, we can ask if they have anything they want to share.
All right. Are there any announcements for this evening?
Yes, I have a couple. I wanted to let everybody know that former Commissioner Ken Balsley's Celebration of Life was held April 24th at St. Martin's University. It was just a really nice program. A lot of really nice comments and tributes were made to someone who contributed so much to the City of Lacey and the community. So that was really nice. Tomorrow night, May 4th, Ken Balsley will be honored with the Spirit of Lacey Award from the City Council. So everybody is invited to attend that. There will be a small reception for the family after the award. And then in addition, Dr. Thelma Jackson will be receiving the Ken Balsley Historian of the Year Award at the same council meeting. So it's going to be a big night tomorrow night. So hope to see you attending.
Thank you. And thank you for attending Ken Balsley's. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Are there any approvals or corrections for the April meeting minutes? I did not see any. All those in favor of the April meeting minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Oh, we just need a motion
Oh,
to approve.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I need a motion to approve the April meeting minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I
All those opposed? The approval of the April meeting minutes moves forward. Moving on to correspondence. I trust that everyone's read the correspondence that was sent in their packets, and I think Director Burbidge has answered all of the correspondence. We have public comment now. Anyone who would like wish to address the commission is free to do so as of now. So Isaiah, would you like to speak first?
What would I say? This is right here?
Sure.
Okay. All right, good. Well, I really, Isaiah Lamote again, thanks for the opportunity. So I know time is short, so I'll get right to it. Something I learned in the military is a bottom line up front. What is a bottom line up front? The reason why I'm here. The bottom line up front is we don't have a cricket field in City of Lacey, and we need to have one. That's the bottom line up front. I will use the military for the 5W to kind of explain, what I'm trying to get at. So 5W, we're all familiar with who, what, where, when, and why. So who, who is the citizens of this of Lacey, but in particular those teams. We have cricket teams here in the city of Lacey, which I didn't know until late last year that we do have cricket teams. So we do have teams, and then of course they need a place to go practice and so on, to go play and thing of that sort. So that's a who that we want to address. Not only the teams that we currently have, but also other citizens of the city or of Lacey who probably would like to learn more about cricket. Another venue for people to go watch. Get their physical, the health and fitness in there as well. So that's a who. The when and where, again, I respect the process. So Jen, last week, and I was, schooled on the process. It takes time. So when and where is really, as far from the player side, as soon as possible, but also at the same time, we respect there is a process to get in there. Why? Well, the important why is, so before COVID, these teams here, they used to drive down into Tacoma in Washington two or three times a week for practice. They go up to Seattle every weekend for games. That's where games are held. So since COVID and everything got shut down, 2021, they started back slowly. So since 2021, they start playing at the sidewalk over there at the community center, the Lacey Community Center. You probably have seen them out there practicing, playing. It's not baseball, it was cricket. That's where they're at now. And the concern came to me last year. This is my brother Tim here. I told him to be here at 5 o'clock, but he just got here. So yeah. So anyway,
So you guys don't have to.
oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
So what was that? So yeah, so that's where the team's been practicing there. So it was late last year when Justin brought to my attention that there's been complaints about, the people playing cricket, not because anybody got hurt, but because we all know that's where people go walk, that's where children play, that's where people go feed the ducks and so on and so on. So that kind of took it upon myself. I said, well, we need a cricket field if that's the case. So that's when I engaged the city then, Mr. Scott Pence. So he and I when I first approached him last year, and then that's when I got the ball rolling. So again, Christmas and New Year's came and gone, and now we're re-engaging again. So that's where we are now with the why, because we need, a place for these folks to go and play to alleviate any safety issue, any accidents that may occur, So thank goodness that none of that sort has happened yet. But again, we don't want to wait till it happened before we can act. So what are some of the course of action? I think the course of action I discussed with Jen, is number one. Well, let me talk about the field. People say, what is he talking about? Cricket. It's not it's a cricket field. So this, if you've probably seen, you can Google it when you get home. If not, you can hang out with me outside and my brother. We talk all about the rules, how it's played, and so on. But each team is 20 to 30 man team, right? So if we have 4 teams here, so that's not only the 20, 30 man team, depending on each tournament, they would dictate the number of players per team, depending on how many teams that participate. But the only average is like 20 to 30. So it's not just the players, but also their family. It's a family affair, just like any sport. When Jenny plays soccer, it's not just Jenny that goes. There's a whole family load up in the wagon that goes. So same thing with this one. So that's kind of like what saying. So the field, like I said, the field is a big field. It's not just like baseball. So this cricket field here can be, if you can imagine the rack, right up there, the rack and the top where there's 2 soccer fields side by side. That's kind of like the size that we kind of for the standard cricket, thing. But like I said, right now, any field will do. Just kind of get them out in a place called their own, So, but on that field, there's what is called a cricket pitch. Cricket pitch is this concrete slab about 4.5 feet wide by 70 feet long. That's what is needed right there, right? So it's a cricket pitch. That's when the ball, because the ball is a very hard ball, it's bouncy. It has to bounce on this concrete in order for it to make it to the goal is to hit the wickets at the end of this runway thing here, 70 feet long, right? So the course of action number 1 is that's having a permanent place, call your own your cricket for a cricket thing. Build this little concrete thing here, the beauty of that is, as I mentioned, the Jen, the other, the association, the cricket association, they're more than happy to hey, if you give us okay, the authorization, we'll fund the, the concrete, sand, what have you. We will provide the labor and the expertise to build the stuff when given. So that's just an option, a course of action there, which, and then I understand, the process, because you're now disrupting dirt and things like that. So that's a whole nother, process there. The second course of action, what I would say that would be my number one course of action is the portable pitch. This portable pitch is a standard one, it's the same thing, it's 4.5 feet wide, 70 feet long. This portable one here is rolled. So, and the beauty of this is not only rolled and put away after use, but you can play in any available field. We don't have to disrupt any dirt, like, hey, make it permanent, right? So if we say, hey, we want to use the rack, or the rack is taken that weekend, but however, this other, this field is open, sure. Let's move the pitch there, roll it up and play. So that's a course of action too right there. So what's so what on these two right here? Well, the concrete one or the permanent one there, it all depends on the cost of concrete bag. Like I said, labor, there's labor or volunteer, but again, I know the process you gotta have. So however much, the concrete and labor cost and so forth. So that's how much that will cost. The portable one here, you can buy a brand, the standard one for up to $5,000. And there's several companies that make these things. Even it's available on Amazon, and when we receive full payment, it could be shipped within a week or so. So, and again, that's just, I guess gonna wrap it up. Course of action one would be the portable pitch, which much faster. And then, of course, the second course of action, the permanent one there. So again, so at the end of all this is, so why am I doing all this? Is what nothing's for me, it's for the people of this city. And we don't have a pitch, a cricket field. As my brother gets, and you guys are familiar with the Lacey Polyfest, we could have just called it Polyfest, but I want people to know when they talk of Polyfest, it's not just Polyfest, that's a Lacey Polyfest. When we build a cricket field here, it's not just a cricket field, that's a Lacey cricket field. Pending your question, that's my presentation.
Thank you very much. I was thorough and concise. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. So
Is it something the board would like to see on a future agenda item?
that's what I was just gonna
Okay.
go for. I'm interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I do have a question. How many teams do you estimate are in the Lacey area that, would just a kind of an estimation or a player amount, because you were saying an estimate of 20, 30.
So right now, sorry,
Oh, no, you're
as we speak, I mentioned, we have 4 teams here in Lacey that I'm aware of. There's a men's team, there's a women's team, and there's a youth team, and boys and girls. And then, of course, every weekend, the games, because the league started this month, May until September, late September. All the games are played up in Seattle. So all these teams that travel, every weekend, to go to Seattle to play the game. So not only that, they had to pay the fees to not only attend the tournament, but just because you're a player, they have their own thing. Well, that's how they pay for the field, right? So, but the beauty of all this thing is, if we have our own field, we can host our own tournaments. When we host our own tournaments, we bring not only people, families, we bring revenue to our community. I think that's the A+ right there if we have our own.
And I think that's why we need to bring it to our next agenda so we can discuss how we want to move forward and then get back in touch with you on moving forward with the city with us. But yeah, it's good.
How big is the field again? So it's 4.5 by 70 feet.
And you said that was like an average
that-
size for the soccer fields?
Just
Yeah.
the pitch.
No, that's just the cricket pitch.
Oh,
The field is like I said, we need that soccer field size, the big one there. That pitch will go in the very center, in the middle of the field, because that's where, so keep in mind now, so it's just like baseball. The teams are in the outfield, right? They're waiting for the ball, the air ball, ground ball. Cricket is the same, that 20, 30-man team, they're scattered on that field, waiting for it to catch the ball or the air or ground ball and throw it back to the pitcher, one of the pitchers on this cricket pitch. Yeah, but the cricket pitch itself, the standard size is 4.5 by 70 feet. Yeah, yeah, that's that little
So Chair
concrete slab.
Goodwin, we can have them, if they came back for a presentation, they could actually
Yeah,
Explain
just
a
like
lot
we did
more.
with the
Yeah.
rugby team, have them come back in, do a presentation
Yes.
for us, and then show us kind of what
Yeah.
what the whole diagram
Okay.
would look at, yep. And do the who, what, when, and where in a PowerPoint for us, and it tees us up so that we know exactly how to move forward and where we can partner with you and where to put it at.
Just to add upon, Isaiah, I'm sorry.
We're together.
Yeah, we're together, so.
Oh, good. Yes, please.
Yeah, you know, relationship.
You have three
Learn-
minutes. You're public info. Here you go.
I think it's probably Isaiah mentioned here. Lacey, we have the only team, there is no cricket pitch in south of Tacoma. Everything has to go down like, Tacoma and Seattle, and there's nothing south of us. And if we have this pitch here and stuff, this will also bring teams here. There are 3 national sports in the Samoan community, or Polynesian: volleyball, rugby, and cricket. And so this is the reason why it is very profitable for this community to have that. Because there are 30 teams in Washington here in the Seattle, and only 4 of them is here in Lacey. And imagine if we have that, cricket field, we'll probably have more teams. I think that Tacoma has 4 or 3. And so there's no other team other from south from Tacoma to here, all the way down to the border of Oregon. Nothing, everything else is north.
Portland is also where they held leagues. So occasionally they will ride to Portland. Depends on the tournament availability of team, but that's where they also have other tournaments.
So we're like the middle ground.
Invitation, yeah.
We're the middle.
We are.
ground. Yeah.
But we gotta have our own,
Yeah.
we want a Lacey
Yeah.
cricket field.
Fun to
Love
watch.
it.
I'm not that familiar, but I've seen a couple of games. It's fun to watch. Yeah.
And then this in your next presentation for us.
I gotta see it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I know it's gonna, if it's foreign to you, because I know I was talking fast, but actually the next time, when I'll have the presentation, the PowerPoint, and I'll be able to illustrate, you'll be able to see them. But between now and then, you can Google cricket, you can watch YouTube on cricket and see how it's played. But if you want to learn from the pros, you wait till.
Well, and then we can meet you on June 24th and see, right? You're gonna
Yes.
Play it out there on
Awesome.
the phone. All right.
Well, if we get pitch.
No, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. I
And
really
if you don't mind
appreciate
signing in too,
I-
I'd like all of our guests to sign in. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And confirm.
Are we excused?
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
in.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right.
See you again.
And John, does the member of the public wish to speak? Just online?
They didn't indicate ahead of time. If they'd like to speak, they can use the raise hand feature and we'll bring them in.
David, do you have anything to share? No, sound like it.
No, doesn't look.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm so sorry I was late.
No, that's fine. Make sure, since we have newer commissioners, want to make sure.
Yes, okay. Yes, I am Hillary Dykstra.
So Commissioner Dykstra is here as well. And then we also have
Chris
Commissioner
Carrazzo.
Carrazzo's on. Okay, so we are now moving on to correspondent. I did that public comment, and then we're moving on to 9A, which would be our staff presentation for Lauren Young and Cody Lee.
All right,
If you're ready.
I think I'm ready.
All right.
So like I said, thank you. My name's Cody Lee. I'm the recreation supervisor that oversees community recreation. Under community recreation, that is all of our teen and youth stuff, our outdoor trips and tours, hikes in that, and all of our other community programs and classes. So right now, we're gearing up for summer. Got a busy summer coming up with multiple summer day camps going. Our teen camp is finally coming back since pre-COVID, and a bunch of other week-long summer fun camps for youth. We've been easing back into our adult outdoor trips and tours. We just had a really successful trip up to Skagit Valley to see the tulip festival up there. It's pretty fun. Got a great review from participants and how much they enjoyed our staff, and that is really who makes our program awesome, is our part-time staff. But yeah, so that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. But more importantly, we have our new staff member here that I'd like to introduce, Lauren. And she's been here for about a month, and I won't steal all of her awesome things that she has to say.
So yeah, I've been here for about a month, about 6 months in Washington, but my background is in like youth and teen programming, so I'm very familiar with this, feels at home. Right now, we're trying to bring in more instructors and classes for the fall, so if you know anyone who's wanting to teach anything, they can get in contact with me. But we should have some new things coming for fall. So I am from Texas. Background is in recreation and fitness. I did a little coaching. I've done private sports classes, and then I worked with the military for a while. I'm a military family. That's the only reason I'm here. I wouldn't choose to be this far away from my family, but yeah. So yeah, we're up here. I was just in Kentucky working with at-risk youth at a military academy, and then I worked a little bit at a psychiatric facility, kind of doing the same thing. A little bit of everything.
Wow, very cool.
From our last meeting, the youth programs, I know that there was some issues with the staffing. I mean, making sure that we had enough instructors for the programs. Are we getting closer to that? Are you feeling that there's a little alleviation after COVID and we coming out of half?
Yes,
Feeling a little.
I think our summer staffing is looking very solid, and we are finding some new instructors to run new programs and things, but yeah. No, I think our summer staff had, I don't know, I think we're bringing on 9 or 10 people currently. And yeah, we just interviewed a couple more today that I think are gonna be, I think we're gonna move forward with hiring them.
Good returners too.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, like I said, our staff really make or break our programs, and they currently make them very awesome. They do an awesome job, and it is because a lot of them are returning staff. So we have a good nucleus to help bring in the new staff.
And that the younger, I know after COVID, the social interaction engagement, everything's feeling better with that as well, or?
Yep, last summer was a little bit rough, but we made it through that.
Just want to be sure that everybody's mentally sound, healthy.
Yes.
Feeling like there's some breathing going on, you know, that.
Yes, no, staff, we did our spring break camp, and staff had the best time. They said it was the best group of kids. I didn't hear about one incident or one issue or one problem, and Lauren was out there too, so I think, yeah, it was.
Wasn't that like your first week?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You're going out to camp, so.
Yeah.
It was a quality group of kids though, so I agree with that.
Right. I'm glad to hear that. I was a little concerned because I know it was kind of Chris Bianca and all, it was kind of the deep end of the pool, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that there's relief and breathing is happening. Inhale and exhale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big part because Lauren is here for me, so that takes a lot off of my plate.
Thank you for
She has
being here,
been-
Lauren, and being away from your family. We appreciate
Hope you
it.
like Washington.
Yeah, she's been awesome so far, helping get all of our programs scheduled and our day camp field trips and all those things scheduled, which is a huge relief, so I can focus on all the other things that I have.
Great, great. If you need anything, let us know.
And I would like to thank both Lauren and Cody, just for all their hard work, and Lauren just jumping into things and learning and being patient with us. So we appreciate that. And Cody's leadership has been awesome, bringing Lauren in and getting her trained up. So just from my standpoint, I want to thank both of you publicly.
Thank
I'm
you.
thankful for you very much. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate all the support that you guys give us. You guys help make us successful. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, you're welcome to stay or peel off. You've got lots to do. So.
I've got lots to do.
You do say that.
Know it, those little ones are excited when I get home.
Never stops.
Nope.
Thank you for being here. Have
Yeah.
a good evening and get some rest.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, summer starting.
You guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then we will go to the RAC financial plan update. And that would be with Troy Wu.
Yeah, so Troy and I are going to co-present. So I'm gonna get us started here and then turn it over to Troy. So we've got some slides. Oh. Okay. So why are we talking about this?
It's an action item.
It's yes, it is on your work plan. That's true. It is an action item. Yeah, so, we did a 5-year strategy for the financial plan in 2021. There's been, because there were enough significant changes that was warranted. And now we would like to expand that into 2029. And so, as you saw in your packet, there's a number of items. I know it's a lot of information, but we're gonna give you the overview and be happy to, answer any questions that you might have. But in your packet, you have the narrative of the plan. We did put in the track change version for you, and then also a clean copy. It's just easier to read that way. And then we have the budget that is associated with not only the annual budget for the RAC, but also the financial plan in a spreadsheet format for you. So with that, I'll just go ahead and get us started. And so this has been worked on by myself, also some other city staff, Scott Devlin, who's our public works. He is our operations manager. Actually, I'll need to change that. Sue Faylash, who you know, Julie McFadden, who is a senior maintenance technician out of the RAC. Jamie Oakland, who's our public works parks maintenance supervisor, and of course, Troy Wu, our finance director. And the reason this reads recommended by the Lacey Board of Park Commissioners is because, and I need to update our new name too. So we'll do that before the council meeting. But the reason is because this is something that you will approve and then recommend that to the city council. So this one does go to council. And so we've listed all of your names there. And just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about a little bit of background of the RAC. And if you read through in the narrative, you will have gotten a lot of the information. We're going to make some recommendations. We're going to talk about some considerations, and then we'll be asking the board for an action.
Hey, Jen, you need to share your screen.
Oh, okay. My apologies. So what I'll do is, thank you, John. Just for the benefit of those who might be watching, I'll just quickly go through the first ones. So people can see it. Heard by the staff, will be recommended by the board. And then there's your overview. So a little bit of background. The 68-acre site was purchased in 1998. There was a bond issue that was approved in 2002, which was the funding that we were able to start the development. There was a public facilities district created with it's Tumwater, Olympia, Lacey, and Thurston County. And that's an interlocal agreement, and that was created in 2002. Phase 1 was opened up in 2004. Phase 2 was opened in 2009. And then there was a settlement in 2010 that the county actually had with the city of Lacey to go ahead and get themselves out of the funding plan for the RAC. And so then it turned over completely to city of Lacey, and there was some funding that was part of that settlement for Lacey. The reason that the RAC came about is because of the needs from the community, and so this was a hugely important facility, obviously, for people to be able to have wellness opportunities and be able to play sports. And as you all know, it's a public-facing free park, and it's also fee-based. Some of the fields and the shelters that you book out. There's a lot of free opportunities as well. So it's a mixture of the paying groups or fee-based groups and stakeholders, people that use these fields. There's two sides of the facility. There's the soccer side with the 6 fields. One of those is the synthetic turf field. And then the other side of the operation is the softball and baseball complex. And that's 5 fields. And they have the synthetic turf infield with the natural grass outfield. But these are some of the user groups. This isn't every single user group. I didn't mention the ones that are just a couple times a year, but those are our main user groups that are out there consistently. So you kind of, we're not gonna read through all of them word for word, but you get an idea of how many user groups are and who they are in our community. So it's a very beloved facility by, people in the local community and also people who come from out of the area to visit. So in the plan, we make some recommendations and some of those are here listed on the screen. We can always increase the use on the athletic fields. Our staff are always trying to find new ways to bring people in. You just heard earlier, someone who potentially might want to bring cricket, which would be a new one at that particular facility. And, really evaluating when are those slower rental times when they're not being used, and then maximizing the number of teams that are coming in, and that helps to increase revenues to offset the operating costs. And we're also looking at new innovative ways to increase revenues. There's some listed in the narrative portion. But we're always open for ideas as well. So of course, that's something that's recommended and for staff to continue to do. Also recommended is monitoring those public facility district revenues annually, continuing to commit to life cycle and capital improvements that keep the RAC a great place to come and participate. So you've seen in the packet, in the narrative, a number of capital items in there. As well. And one of the things that we've talked about before, and we'll bring that up again, is that, and this goes along with the RAC being a public facing, free park. It's not self-supporting financially, so it is subsidized, and long-term sustainability of this facility is of course a priority. The Thurston County settlement that I mentioned before was depleted in 2020. And then the Public Facilities District does sunset in 2027, and that's when the city's debt will be retired. There is a potential for a 15-year extension to the Public Facilities District, and staff has begun researching the legalities and the parameters of that. And then the plan, it's important that we review it periodically and following significant changes. We definitely want to continue to provide the same level of service to the community. And I think this is the point. To try.
Good evening, everyone. Oops. Appreciate you being here. I think it's no secret that the rest of the departments are very jealous of parks, culture, and recreation, for all the fun things they get to do. So it's fun to be a part of that. Maybe I'll share a little story. I was just thinking about this, or just kind of suddenly reminded. When I started here in 2009, the RAC had just opened. I think it opened in May. Is that right? So I interviewed here in May, I think. And the RAC was one of the first places in Lacey I went to visit, and I just couldn't believe the fact that a city could put something like this together. So it was, in a way, a kind of a big reason I came here. I was looking for a financially viable city, and a city that was able to actually do things and meet priorities. And the RAC was a shining example of that. So it's kind of a neat full circle kind of thing for me. So you do have the full details of the financial model in your packet. Just going to give a brief overview of that. So within the financial model, I think an important piece is we are using $200,000 of public facility district sales taxes to subsidize the operations of the RAC. We've been doing this for some time. But it's certainly, as Jen said, we definitely need to recognize this is a public park. This is an important critical piece of our park system. So it certainly makes sense. Also within the model, we are going to increase that by $400,000 if approved, or to $400,000 starting in 2025 through 2029. And one of the main reasons for that is, as we look at the potential of the PFD sales taxes stopping in 2027, we need to subsidize that. Back in 2020, the city council did commit, basically set aside a reserve of $800,000 to offset the end of the county settlement. So the county settlement, as Jen said, went into place in 2010. It was only intended to help supplement the operations of Iraq through, I think, 2014. So we actually got another, 5-6 years out of that settlement. So that's the good news, but it did come to an end in 2020, and recognizing that shortfall, the council identified these one-time revenues to keep the RAC going. So we could continue this discussion in terms of how to keep the RAC running with that operating deficit. So to give you an idea of what we have in the 2023 budget, we have a total of almost $27,000 of general fund support. That does include that $200,000 per year subsidy in terms of that one-time reserve that's been identified. We are also using lodging tax of $180,000 for operations. It's been $180,000 for like 3 years. We started at 160, if I remember right.
We started at 125 and then we moved to 160, and then about 3 years ago, we moved up to 180.
So, certainly recognizing the impact that the RAC has on tourism. I think Jen was telling me recently, it's like $10 million a year it's brought into the local economy based on.
It's higher
More than
actually.
that.
Yeah, so, Experience Olympia and Beyond, our sports commission. Lets us use the calculator and they plug numbers in for us, and it's actually 15 million. It might even be over, because I think 15 million took us through like into the fall, but not to the end of the year. So yeah, back to the local economy.
As Jen mentioned, the public facility district sales tax potentially expires in 2027. It's both governed by the interlocal agreement, as well as the fact that outstanding debt is a requirement of that sales tax. There's probably a little bit of a legal question. I'm not exactly sure when Olympia's debt is retired. I think they might be 1 year behind us, because it seems like or not new anymore, but the Children's Museum, I think, opened later than the RAC. So their debt may be outstanding a year or two longer than ours, and there's, I think, some legal questions we have to answer about what that means, since we have two different facilities that are actually funded by that district. So then if you look at, if you look at all reserves within the public facility monies, and of course, we would like to preserve that for capital replacements, but if we would choose to fund operations versus capital improvements, we could actually, if nothing else changes, the RAC will stay solvent through 2031. But after that, there would be a pretty significant shortfall, which you'll see in the next slide here. So this is just a 10-year look at revenues versus expenditures. We have revenues in the green bar, expenditures in the red, and then the blue line there is the operating deficit. You can see right starting next year, 2024, it's projected $58,000 deficit. This is pretty common. The cost of running the RAC, the cost of running a city, those costs tend to rise higher than and faster than the revenues to support those functions. So not a real surprise, and something that the RAC has been dealing with at least as long as I've been here. And you can see the impact. It's a cumulative impact as you look down the blue line in terms of that deficit. So the $58,000 deficit in 24, you had roughly 30,000 additional deficit in 2025 and so on and so on. So again, it's a cumulative impact. We have been increasing the general fund support for the RAC throughout the last 15 years or so. I imagine that will continue. But where things really change from that is in 2029 to 2030. That is where those one-time revenues basically fall off the funding source. So as you saw from the previous slide, there's $400,000 being proposed from 25 to 29 in terms of reserves. That's really where that ends, is 2030. So you know, and then you just kind of continue to see that deficit grow throughout that. In terms of kind of some general comments or things for the board to know that's what's in the plan. There are field replacements within this period of time. I think it's from 28 to 31. We did just finish, well, it seems like we just finished complete artificial turf replacement. When we did that all with general fund reserves. We have identified additional reserves for the next field replacement that's going to happen here in about 5 years. We have about $1.7 million of reserves identified in a general fund for field replacement. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite cover the entire series of field replacement. So we're short a little bit in terms of those reserves. So that contributes to some of the deficit as well. Another pretty significant project also within this model are the LED light replacements. Well, that's a 2024 project, or at least that's what we have penciled into the plan. That is a $1.6 million project. The good news there is we're on kind of an early list of direct spending from Senator Cantwell's plan. That's about $675,000. So both of those considerations are in this plan. So we're still short roughly $1 million. And you know, there's no guarantee that project makes it to the end of Senator Cantwell's direct spending plan. But you know, fingers crossed that that continues to be the case. Again, the plan does assume that any PFD reserves will go to operations before capital. So that's, you know, basically runs out in that 2031 timeframe. There were a couple questions that came in prior to the meeting. So thank you, Commissioner Fosbury, for that early heads up. It's always nice to have the detailed questions ahead of time so you could actually prepare. So I definitely appreciate that. One of the questions was in 2022, there was a significant increase to Lacey Utilities. So we discovered in about that same time frame, so 2022, that we had an irrigation meter that wasn't reading correctly. Or actually it was the calculation within utility billing. And I'm not going to be able to explain it, but we were really undercharging the RAC for water irrigation. So that was about a 6-year period in which we weren't billing properly. So that was a one-time catch up. I think the amount was about $350,000 and we took general fund reserves to pay for that. So we transferred that into the RAC and paid for that with reserves. But now we're correctly billing for that. So what you're seeing in the budget for Lacey Utilities is the true cost. Another question was how, and I'm not going to remember word for word the question, but it was basically how does the subsidy, the general fund subsidy for the RAC affect, you know, other considerations, other priorities for the city? And I think the short answer, the easy answer for me is we haven't had to make those decisions yet. We've been very fortunate in terms of growth to our revenues within the general fund. That's why we've been able to pay for these projects with one-time revenues. The RAC is still doing very well. So you typically don't answer those questions until the money becomes really tight, and then it becomes a discussion about what the priorities truly are. So like I said, in my time, we've been fortunate that we haven't had to have those really tough discussions, but the truth of the matter is, this is a competing function of many other priorities the city has and other functions. Our former city manager, Scott Spence, used to say there's 3 Ps when we look at the budget. There's people, pavement, and parks. You could add police in there. I mean, there's a whole wide range of services that we provide, and all of which are important. And we'll have to make those decisions when funds get a little bit shorter than they are now. So we'll have to kind of wait and see, but this is certainly a council and certainly an organization that values its parks. I think you've all seen that and witnessed that. It's probably why you wanted to be a part of this. It's because of what we've been able to accomplish as an organization in terms of parks. We've certainly prioritized that, understand, the value it brings to the community in terms of bringing people to this community, bringing businesses to this community. So we certainly recognize that, and I don't think that will change, but there will be, at some point, there'll be some of those questions that will have to be asked of our council in terms of those priorities.
I've got a couple. The first thing I was thinking about is state revenue that focused on tourism, because that is such a heavy focus of drawing in teams that you do so well with. When you had done your report for us previously. But I know, because I've been working with the city of Puyallup with the military facility, and they were discussing how in the creation of it, that it would be kind of like a draw. And so the state was interested in, redirecting funds toward that from the state because of the tourism aspect of it. So I'm just wondering if that has been considered or looked into. And that is with, it's Puyallup. I'm trying to remember the state lady's name from Puyallup, but well, anyway, so that would be a big aspect of maybe additional funding for you guys to maybe look into. Also, I know that you guys had that huge shortfall from COVID, and because you had so much of a loss because you couldn't have games. So also want to make sure that that is also put in here, because I know you guys have done a phenomenal job and bouncing back the way that you guys have. And then additionally, I know you mentioned the hotel revenue, but I know there's other aspects, because it all, rolls downhill. You lose the rack, you lose the revenue from the teams, and the teams are no longer coming to stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, and how that negatively impacts the city as a whole, because people lose jobs. And then while you made the question of consideration of push and pull, as far as if you don't have that revenue, then somebody else is going to lose their job, and then the revenue is going to be needed by the Community Action Council because utilities, because people can't afford to pay it anymore. So it does shift. And I kind of want to make those statements and, like I said, appreciate you guys and highlight those factors that, you guys had to bounce back from that. And that is, well, that looks ugly. I just want to make sure I highlight that, because you don't see the other, you don't see it up there. But thank you guys.
This is definitely a worst case scenario, a do nothing
Yeah.
scenario, really. We're obviously not going to get to the point where we have a $750,000 deficit. But yeah, we do, I think that the lodging tax is generated through hotels, and it has to go to tourism type functions. So certainly recognizing, your point that it is.
Because of how much you guys had mentioned in that previous report, the amount of tourism that takes place when these teams come to town, I feel like, even when this gets brought up again, that needs to be emphasized. That needs to be re-emphasized here.
Yeah, so once we're done with the presentation, I can pull open the narrative and let's just check that there's other grant opportunities, and potentially, I think tourism dollars could be available in the future from a different source. So,
And Cindy Jacobson, because she's on the committee for the financial. but that's who we were working with about it regarding the tourism funding.
Sure, okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. And then the other comment about COVID, yeah, that was, yes, unfortunate. We did have a balanced budget. And those numbers were included in the last time we brought the plan, because we prepared it in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
For
Well, that's what I'm saying.
2021.
It's just not easily, seen here, you know what I mean, because of that drop back. Cause you had it balanced, like you said, and then all that was in your coffers is depleted because of COVID, so. Sorry, but yeah, I just want to make sure that was. Thank you.
And there was a concessions question too, which I'll pull up the narrative after this and I can speak to that one too.
Questions on
The details of the plan.
I have a question. Is the ultimate goal to make the RAC self-sustaining or just find more permanent funding sources or both or?
I think it's the latter. And you'll see this in our final recommendations. I think we're proposing we shift the narrative a little bit in terms of since the last plan. So the last plan was basically buy some time to come up with a sustainable plan and I personally, and it's, I think kind of my recommendation is that we move away from that. It's a highly successful facility. The way I look at it is we're booked out 51 out of 52 weekends.
It's amazing.
The only way to actually increase those revenues is to add weekends. I don't have that power to do that. As much as I would love to add like double the number of weekends in a year, I just can't do that.
That'd be
So
nice.
I think we've done everything we can. I mean, I think there's still more that we can do, but in terms of making up a deficit like that, that's going to take some pretty monumental changes. So
And it's still important to recognize that a third of that park is just open to the community. There
Yeah.
are no revenues attached to other than a $50 shelter reservation, which isn't going to cover.
Well, there is, but it's not monetary. It's in
Right.
the people and the community
Yeah.
and mental health
Comes
and
back
things that are
Right.
not
Wellness.
tangible.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
true. And then I'll mention too, the soccer side of it, and I mentioned this a little bit briefly earlier, there is potential, but then in the bad weather, it's natural grass, and so it's limited, the season is limited, but there is capacity over there, and that's why Sue and her staff have worked really hard. They've got, as you know, they've got rugby out there now with the new rugby goals.
Yeah.
Ultimate
Different.
Frisbee, what's the other, the Gaelic
Gaelic footballs coming out there and.
Gaelic football is a new one for us. We just heard about cricket and so just trying to think of different ways than in the past to get usage out there. And one of the capital projects too that you'll see in the narrative is the potential to convert another soccer field. We have one turf field, synthetic turf out of 6. If we could get another synthetic turf field out there, it just extends the usage and, with lights, you can use it later into the evening, you can use it in all weather. But it's also, by the time we were able to do it, it would probably be about $2 million. So, yeah, so it's a matter of just figuring out, what the funding looks like for that. But yes, trying to increase usage for sure.
You have to run.
Yeah.
You can't run the fields.
What's that?
We get any impact fees from the military base? For, like.
Kind of like the schools get for
Get them in that.
the military, the count of how many military students are in the school, they get federal funding, it's resourced.
not other than,
Sorry.
those military members that live in our community that generate them. No direct allotments due to the military, no.
But I think conversations getting closer to 2029, if they're going in this direction or going to our taxes, are we looking at conversations about how we're going to offset that? That's part of the.
Potentially, there is a Metropolitan Park District option, which is a voter approved, basically new parks district. Certainly it could go towards the funding and operations of a facility like this. It's probably on a maybe a 3-year kind of discussion. I mean, we have so many other things and like public facilities district is going to be coming to the forefront, so I'll probably explore that option first. And then look at Metropolitan Park District but there's other parks needs too, besides just the RAC, so there'll need to be a pretty large, discussion about that possibility.
What about the model from the Bryant Park in New York? Like the one that I had forwarded to you guys when we were looking at options? Remember for the facility at Great Curio? Remember Bryant Park? And it's like a private public partnership, and it's like a board, and it's now like multi-million dollars. So but it's called Bryant Park out of New York City, so. Because it used to be like a hood and people were getting mugged, and now you can go ice skating in Rockefeller, and like there's restaurants and hotels and shopping, and it's just a beautiful area, so.
Was there a funding structure?
Yes, if you go to I had to do a whole, in graduate school, I had to do a paper on it, just look at it, it's a whole thing.
And I've been to the park there in New York, I just had no idea. It
Like,
was-
yeah, if you look on there, it's a public-private entity, and so it's like an almost association. And so it kind of self-supplements itself, so none of it is done on public funding.
But it's accessible to the public.
Yes, it's for the public's use, yeah.
And it's multi-purpose. so
It's
it runs
multi-purpose.
year
And
round.
they kind of buy into it, invest into it, the
Because
community.
it brings
partner.
them business
Mhm.
and brings them.
So we do have in the future development section of the narrative of the plan, to develop, the RAC phase 3, that's the 26 acres. It's across Marvin Road from the RAC.
Mhm.
And it mentions a potential for private-public partnership within that. Something that is mentioned in the plan.
And in general, I don't know how well it translates to the RAC, but my experience is that park facilities, recreation facilities, kind of the gold standard in recouping costs is about 50%.
Okay.
The RAC is right around 40%, I think. But as you said, it's a community park. Go there any time of the day and there are people there. Whether there's a tournament or leagues going on, it doesn't matter. There are always people there, so.
And just an example of one of the tournaments Sean brought in, that we had the PSPLU soccer tournament. And they brought in over 100 teams, and just for the RAC, just for field revenue alone was $5,500 for just that one deal, which is, pittance to that, but I mean, it's that big of a group, so you've got just that for us, but then how much was it for the rest of the community coming in for the weekend?
So as Jen mentioned, we would look for a recommendation from this commission to have this forwarded to the full council. So in terms of, what we're looking at and suggesting, this is a 20-year plan, so 2024 through 2043, I don't know, I keep saying that. You do have all the recommendations and the details of the plan. I think a critical thing in thinking about this is using that public facility district sales tax through 29 and acknowledging that. And as I, mentioned in one of my earlier responses, we really want to shift the narrative to actually recognizing this as a community park, therefore needing that sustained general fund support for the RAC. So that's probably in my mind the most significant change in terms of the tone and recommendation from this plan is to get that buy-in from the city council. And they have. I mean, we've been shifting the dialogue for a few years, but yeah, I mean, we just need to support this like any other community park in terms of general fund revenues. So that is all we have. Happy to answer any further questions.
So can I? Move the packet up right here, just to answer that concession question. I make you busy for just a moment.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
So the public facility district was used to kind of help fund the creation of capital expenditures and things. If that doesn't get renewed, do you even have to put a report like this together and independently account for both the revenues and expenditures for this one park out of all the other parks that are in the city? Because I can appreciate why we're doing it for this one, but I know we're not gonna get a presentation on Rainier Vista
Right.
and find out how much money we're spending on the maintenance and operations and capital improvements out there.
Yeah, that's, I'm smiling because I asked the same question like 2 weeks ago. So,
Away from this.
I mean, I like the revenue, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's
Yeah.
paying for key portions of this, and obviously we're collecting it from users in a sense, because they're staying in the hotels.
I actually had a conversation with our city manager and assistant city manager about just the structure of the budget and why we have this particular park separated out from the rest of the general fund. And the history is this used to be a partnership with Thurston County, so we had a different level of accountability.
Oh,
Right, so we were handling all the accounting, we were paying all the employees, we were operating it. And so, again, we had another, just a different level of accountability, which doesn't exist anymore. So, yeah, I think there's a strong argument for bringing this into the general fund, not having it a completely separate fund. There's some question about the capital side, just because of the public facility district sales taxes. Those are a special revenue, which has in itself a different level of accountability, but from the park operations itself, I see very little reason not to bring it into the general fund, which really leads into the recommendation, treat it like any other park. So, yeah, great point.
To answer the concessions question, so we did remove this is the edited version. We looked into potentially having the city operate the concession. So we do have concessions out there. It's in the revenue line item of the budget. It's $22,000. I can bring up that screen next. We charge a flat fee, and we actually we were just talking about this one today. We send out a request for RFP for concessionaire, and we'll be doing that actually here towards the fall. And so we do have a company that's operating concessions there now. So yeah, it's the revenue line item. I can show you where that is, but we did look into doing it internally and
Well, I'm
trying
not
to-
suggesting you do it.
oh, okay.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
we
curious because it was gone from the narrative and I was trying to find the financials.
Yeah,
Look
it was just,
small.
kind of a business that the city really doesn't need to get into. You kind of ask, hey, what are we in the business of, right? So.
And I think Sue reports on that as well, right? Because we did the Coca-Cola Pepsi
Yeah.
switchovers.
Yep.
Yeah, so she'll.
Yep, so she'll be. Yep. Okay, let me show you, sorry, annual budget, I think is after the,
That's fine, you don't need to show me.
oh, okay. Yeah, it's just called concessions lease on the line item, so.
So can I, just on that pack, just going back to the original question that we had of it moving out of Thurston County, not being a partnership with that anymore. And Lacey, are we the ones reviewing that? Will that be a city review? Because it says we're supposed to review it annually or more frequently at the beginning, that we're reviewing the PDF more frequently,
Oh, the PFD.
or PFD, I'm sorry. I have
It's
to,
okay.
Lexia.
We, of course, at a staff level, monitor that constantly.
Mhm.
There is a separate board actually for the public facility district. We actually just went away from audited financial statements, so we're just going to do an accountability audit going forward. It was can't remember the cost. I think the annual audit cost was $6,000 a year. I'm trying to be respectful. There were literally 36 annual transactions. The money came in from the state. 71% went to the city of Lacey, 29% goes to city of Olympia. So transactions coming in and then the 24 transactions going out per year. So that was costing us $6,000 to audit. So we felt pretty confident that we had a strong accountability in those 36 transactions, but of course, we know we'll go through an accountability audit to make sure we're following the laws of the state of Washington and the policies of Lacey and the district as a whole. But that is a board that does have oversight of those revenues. But we want to make sure we keep monitoring that from just a viability standpoint for the ROC. And sales tax has been very strong for the Public Facilities District. In fact, surprisingly so, I would say for the region, as a matter of fact, City of Lacey has brought in more sales tax during the pandemic than it did before. So it kind of defied logic, and that's no different than the Public Facility District. So, but we'll gauge that. I mean, the economy is, we'll see what happens. I mean, the Federal Reserve is trying to slow down this economy, and I suspect they'll be successful at some point, so.
The rest is-
Any other questions we can answer?
No, the rest was just knowledge from you. I just find it interesting. It's moving out of the Thurston County, so like where everything's going after that fact, when it's just gonna be kind of community park. I'm kind of interested to see how that works. Works just us. Thank you very much. Very well done. So we need to,
So would look for a motion to recommend this financial plan to the city council.
I would make a motion to approve the RAC financial plan updates as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any discussion? Hearing none, I move to approve the RAC financial plan update as written.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you so much, Troy, for helping us with this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Troy. It's very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet all of you.
Nice seeing you again.
Yes.
Yes. I'll let my son know you're doing well. I will.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. We will move up to old business, 7A, the Greg Cuyo Park Phase 1A update.
Yes, okay, so as promised, I brought some slides. to Show you, and I will remember to share. Okay, and these are from the December 8th City Council work session, but that's really the last slides that we've actually prepared. And this will be repetitive to some of you that have been here, but this will catch the new commissioners up. And then I can give a brief update of where we are currently. So basically, we had the master plan that we did first. We had a consultant come on. It took just over a year. This says January 2021 to January of 2022, and then it was actually approved by council the following month in February. And with the park vision in mind to provide open space preservation, water quality protection, and enhancement of the natural environment, but also balancing that with recreational opportunities. So with the final master plan, we included a few of the key takeaways in these slides, and access was a big conversation. We did the planning for all 3 parks that are adjacent, so you can see the red line there. And what was important, as it turned out, to both the Parks Board and City Council was access from all 4 sides. But not major access from all 4 sides. So major access would be, this is Carpenter Road, this is where the main entrance to the park is going to be. This is the area that had been already cleared to be a development before it became a park. And so it made sense to try to protect the natural areas and go ahead and do the most development in that core area that was already cleared. But you can see with the scale of the access, so this is really where everybody will be kind of driven, like from the website and all the advertising of like, this is the main entrance. But you can see the scale here, secondary access to the west and to the east sides. And then kind of that neighborhood are really small access from the north and the south. And it kind of indicates here, you know, how many potential parking stalls could be in these areas.
Are those gray squiggly lines trails?
Yes. They are, yep. And so if you want to dive down into a lot of the detail, the master plan is available by going to Lacey Park's website. If you have any trouble finding it, let me know, or if there's specific questions you have about it. There's lots of different phases to this project, and so yeah, so this map doesn't show as much detail, but, and then this kind of gives an overview of where the development will be after everything is developed, and you can kind of see it's focused again in that core area with some development on the outskirts, but really, again, one of the focus for this whole property is to keep things natural, so that's why you won't see as many amenities outside this core area. This kind of shows you once everything is completely done, which we anticipate it's about a 20-year plan, 20 plus. That's what you will be able to see eventually. And again, there's lots of details in the plan. But with the outreach for the master plan, some main programming themes came to the top and they're listed here, and some guiding principles came to the top and they're listed here. But we had 3 open house virtual meetings with our consultants. We had 340 meeting participants total with those meetings. And the really exciting thing is we got a lot of online responses, 781. And then out to 20 stakeholder organizations as well. So it's a pretty robust process for the planning efforts. And what we ended up coming up with for a very first start is phase 1A improvements. And so you see that in the yellow area outlined there. And that includes safe access to the park, actually the main road in, which will be right here off of Carpenter, 50 parking stalls, a flexible open space, a large size shelter, temporary restrooms. So we'll have Santa cans. It would have added about $3 million to bring utilities. So we have them stubbed out for the next phase in this phase. We've got paved and soft surface trails programmed, a playground, an emergency and maintenance access, 18 holes of disc golf, which are going to be gold level or very competitive level play, but can be modified for, beginners or children or anybody. And then signage and wayfinding improvements. So that's basically what phase 1A is. And then these next few slides show a little more detail on phase 1A. The only thing that's changed is that the playground has moved up just a little bit from this original plan. These are the disc golf holes. These are the paved areas for access, which is around that main kind of entry area. This shows another view at the disc golf course. This is a rendering that shows you in the forest in the disc golf course with the multi-use trail going through. You can see the disc golfer right here.
What is the trail going to be? Is it gonna be gravel? Is it gonna be paved?
I'll show you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Look.
It's something that trips a lot, so.
Yeah, so, no, you're good. So you saw the paved area in the other slide. So these are the primary trails in this color. They'll be 10 feet wide with crushed rock surface. So the yellow that you see here. And this whole loop is about 1 mile. Just to give you an idea of
And
scope.
they can you?
Yeah, it looks really small on the
Can you
screen.
add to it?
Yes, so this is just what's in the phase 1A. So primary trails, then there's secondary trails in this color, which will be 4 feet wide with crushed rock. And then there is one informal trail here, and then there's another one here. This is the beginning of the disc golf course, and once the cross-country course goes in, this is gonna have to be moved, and so that's why I wanted to make it as easiest to move as possible. And yes, to your point, there will be other trails that'll be just dirt that will be in between, like the disc golf course. There'll be a lot of trails.
Well, no, what it was asking is that way if you can just, you said the main one was 1 mile. And then there's gonna be a lot of people hiking that wanna do more than a mile. And I've been on a lot of trails where you can add in to get additional space, you know.
Yep.
I was just curious if that was what, I know. Yeah,
Yeah, there will be. We just had to, for the 90% design, come up with what the package is as a first phase to be able to get the park opened up.
Does the park have water service or is it gonna be a well?
No, the park won't have water to begin with.
I got a question on that. I can't believe somebody built a park without water. Why can't you, and then one of the documents that said that we could get the DOE approved a well.
Yeah, so we've already been through this entire process and this entire discussion. And so I would have to, if there's specific information, I'd have to come back with that and probably bring our capital projects.
Yeah, to me, it seems like you had
Manager.
to argue with Department of Ecology, say, hey, it's for public use and give us a temporary 20-year water right use. Something like that.
Yeah, so I'd have to dig back. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more worried about fire suppression.
Oh, yeah, wildfires, because.
Yeah, so-
People wandering through here and doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so the vegetation plan is going to be made for minimal fire risk. So that was part of the discussion as well.
And just Jamie, also the Henderson Bud Inlet is what's running in there to the creek. And they want to open that. I think there was some discussions about opening that back up so the salmon can come back in and spawn in there. So then the suspension bridge would go over to lunch. So there's discussions about that as well. So there's wetland, there's kind of a wetland preservation that's happening in there as well. That's kind of, but I think it will help on the tour if any of the commissioners are interested in kind of seeing like the safety and, you know, these questions. I think it's like a really good tour to take, just so you get an idea of what really they're preserving out there. It's a lot of.
Yeah, and I can, if that's something that you all are interested in hearing, I can make sure and get that information. I have to dig back through the documents. My apologies for that. And so, yeah, primary trails. So this just kind of shows a picture of, you know, what those will look like. And then the secondary trails. And then the informal are more, these ones here. This is kind of neat. At first, we didn't think that we could actually cut through there just because of the natural area. But as it turns out, the buffers allowed it. So that's kind of cool. I think so you can do like a different route. These are just examples of what will be going in here, picnic tables here, and then a large shelter here. And very soon I'll have a picture of our actual shelter, so I'll be able to bring that for you. And then in terms of the playground, it's a playground that's going to be expanded on later. Again, this has moved a little bit, so I need to get an updated design to show you. But there are future components of the playground that can be added in. When we asked people what was important to them in terms of the playground, these are the words that came forward. And what we did is we put forth 3 playground character options for the public to help us decide. The first was trucks, blocks, and boulders. The second was trees and nature. The third was animals and critters. And so we did ask which character option they would prefer. And I'll come back to that one. And so what we found is 48% preferred natures and trees. And so that's what we've been moving forward with. And again, very soon I'll have the playground rendering to share with you. But we had a public open house. This one we were finally able to do hybrid format. So we were able to have people in person and online. So that was great. We had 560 respondents, really good participation again with this. And so it's shaping up really nicely and I'll be really excited to show you that. We also had a meeting with the immediate neighbors to phase 1A. So obviously there's a lot of neighbors around further out, but just the construction project itself. So we had 9 people attend. Some of their concerns that they shared is just private, people getting onto private property and security things. These are things that we were able to talk through and you know, while there's no perfect solution to that, we do deal with it throughout our whole entire park system. So that'll be the same at this location. And then they were concerned about traffic and pedestrian circulation as well in their neighborhood. And so, oh,
Sorry, are the playgrounds gonna be accessible to children in wheelchairs and things like that?
yeah, so we're looking at the synthetic turf surfacing mixed with potential like pour in place. So, I mean, the chipped playground surfaces are technically accessible, but kind of the flatter surfaces make it a little bit easier. So we're going with that surfacing, and then there will be some of the components in the park as well will be accessible. And also what we've learned in going through this process is that, you know, providing for a lot of open space for just open and creative play is also a really accessible thing for kids to be able to do. So. At the 30% design, this is our cost estimate. We are still in there, but we're still waiting for 90%. The 90% has been delayed. I think I reported last time that it was supposed to be here like the third week in April. Well, now we're looking at about the third week of May. So there were some things that needed to be double checked, particularly with the stormwater. And so I know Commissioner Larson, we had actually printed out a copy and then we took it back because there were some things that were caught. So we just want to make sure that it's ready for you. So as soon as and that it is immaculately designed. So
Need to be perfect too, you know, if you get a plan where you said earlier than that's fine. You know, too.
yeah, well, I didn't want you to have to find things that we were already finding. So, but we'll have it as soon as we get the copy, we'll make one and we'll make sure to alert you that it's ready. So. Potential grant funding. So I do have an update here. This was, you know, where our funding sources were going to come in besides the city reserves, but the WWRP grant, we are very, very likely to get this. It's in the capital budget or the state budget. This is the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program of the Recreation and Conservation Office. And so we are being recommended for this one. So we'll find out June 27th, I think their board meeting is, and that'll be the final approval. And then we are not being recommended for this one, unfortunately. This one's $2 million. That would have been very nice. We weren't eligible for the legacy grant. And then we are actually in the Washington State capital budget for the $500,000 direct ask. And so it looks like we'll be getting, if all things go the way we think, we'll be getting $1 million in grant funding. So that will definitely help offset the cost. Lacey Rotary is very interested as well. I met with a representative and I'm going to be following up with that. And then also the Thurston Park Foundation of Thurston County is pursuing a grant through REI for this. And you can potentially get up to $50,000. But it's one of those things that they're working on and they're trying to get to the point to where they can actually apply for us. So that's in the works as well. So I'll make sure and keep you updated on those things. Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, we're still, even though we're delayed with the 90%, we're still on track to go out to add either by the end of this year for construction or early next year, and then have construction in 2024. So still on target for that. Any more questions I can answer?
Good. There's more.
Nope, that's great.
Are there any other questions for the Great Cuyo Park Phase 1A?
No. Did you decide on a date and time for the tour?
Oh, I was then gonna do it on the commissioner report or on the chair report, and then we can all kind of decide, because Sarah's on break. She's on vacation. She's in Japan. I think that's really nice. Yes. Okay, so old business, 7B, the LPCR comprehensive plan draft.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan, and hopefully you're all able to follow the link into the document. So there are some pages I want to go through specifically, but I thought I should give an overview. My cursor. Like it's ghosting me. Let me share this.
It's a lot of slides.
Okay, with the comprehensive plan update. So I thought it would be important to share why we're doing this. So the Parks Comprehensive Plan is part of the city's overreaching comprehensive plan. And it evaluates parks, culture, recreation, facilities and services. It helps set goals and policies, assess the demands and needs, provides for public input to address those needs. And really, it's a guiding document for our department. So it's very crucial. It also, what's not up here, keeps us eligible for those Recreation and Conservation Office dollars. They require an update every 6 years. So we are definitely on track with that. The team is the public, first and foremost, city staff, the city boards, which is yourself, and city council. The city's mission is to enrich the quality of life. I think it's important to point that out as we go into the comprehensive planning process. And build an attractive, inviting, and secure community. Council works in partnership with the residents to foster pride, develop the economy, plan for the future, and preserve and enhance our environment. We also have our parks vision that's in the plan. We create exceptional events, experience, and environments that delight, educate, and inspire the human spirit, connecting people to each other in the past and building a strong, healthy community. Some facts about Lacey that you might not know: the incorporated boundary is 12,177 acres, or 19 square miles. The urban growth area is 9121, that's 14.5 square miles. And the urban growth area is where the urban growth will most likely occur over the next 20 years. So the total planning area is 21,298. We do plan for that entire area, not just the city boundary, because we know that even people in the UGA use our parks. We know that people all over the county use our parks. And we use other parks. So the population total, and this is kind of staggering, 93,218 as of 2022. That's inclusive of both the boundary and the UGA. So if you, in terms of our overall parks acreage compared to our population, the national standard is 10 acres to every 1,000 residents. So we would be at that kind of national standard at 932 acres. So we're well above, and that is, we're over 1,200 now acres of parkland to the 93,218 people. So we have a good overall level of service when it comes to our park properties, but we're also going to look at where they're located, and we're going to get into that when we look at level of service on the maps. Oh, I forgot to mention exceptional beauty, but you all know that. And we are now the largest city in Thurston County. Our department, I think you guys are pretty familiar, but just in a nutshell, we talked about the park spaces, you know, but our staff, Sue's group, oversees, you know, roughly 15 family events, over 1,100 recreation classes, sports leagues, cultural arts, aquatics, fitness, trips and tours. And you met 2 of our staff tonight that do that stuff. We produce over 30 weeks of day camps. That's what Cody's group does. Of note these are some of our facilities that we're obviously very proud of: Regional Athletic Complex, Lacey Museum, the Community Center, and the historic Jacob Smith House. And we'll also talk about partnerships in the plan and how key that is for us to be able to bring services to the public. So senior services, who occupy the Virgil S. Clarkson Senior Center, and then Northwestern Public Schools, who we have a joint use agreement with. In Parks and Recreation, we rise up for inclusion, resilience, physical health, mental well-being, access to play. And so we really do rise up for the community. And you'll see in the executive summary of the report, talk a lot about the benefits of parks, culture, and recreation. The strategic goals are listed in the plan, and then there's policies and objectives for those. So the first one is developing the high quality, equitable, diversified system where barriers are eliminated, and it includes our facilities, our events, and our programs. These encourage social interaction, cultivate community spirit, and strengthen the livability of Lacey, in addition to meeting community need. The second one talks about how important it is to prioritize the projects, identify current and future funding sources, leverage investments, partnerships, like I mentioned earlier, and maintain Lacey's eligibility for grant funding. Strategic goal number 3 talks about developing a trail system that interconnects, you know, these important facilities and spaces. 4 is one that the Historical Commission has spent a lot of time reviewing and just gave their thumbs up at their last meeting. And I'll show you where that section is in the plan. That's educating and engaging the public with the heritage of Lacey and the South Sound through mission-driven programs and exhibit, and by preserving sites and artifacts of importance and making them accessible. And then 5 talks about using sustainable systems and practices that ensure needs and desires of future generations will not be compromised. There's Wendy, I think.
Great picture. Thanks. Yeah. I posed for it. No, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
I'm not sure if the new commissioners have gone through the public outreach that we did. I don't think I've updated you yet on this, have I? Okay, so we've spent the last, we like to do engagement all year round, all the time, but we did some specific outreach. We did 2 years worth. And so we've had a lot, you'll notice in the plan, the public input section is very robust. So we did Lacey Cares. It was sort of broad outreach in the beginning. We had a consultant, J Rowe and Co. came in and helped us with this. We had an open-ended survey, 1,300 people participated. Again, great participation. From that, he helped us harvest 6,000 parks-related data points. And then he had an outreach team that helped, and 2 of our commissioners that are here were on that team, Commissioner Wheeler and Goodwin. We had 200 participants. So basically the Parks Intercept were the outreach team out in the community doing in person, getting, input. And so we got 800 inputs from that. And then we narrowed that information down. We did a parks priority survey. We had 1,200 participants for that. And then that's where we got our insights and recommendations that you'll see that are written up in the plan. And then from that point, so we're using that information to update the comp plan, and we've been doing targeted outreach. And then we did the Energize Lacey outreach in 2022. So the other stuff was in 2021. And then just last year, we took the priorities from the insights and recommendations, and we went out to kind of confirm those priorities with the public. We had 685, actually that climbed to 710 participants. And, again, we just said, we want your help establishing this plan update. I also wanted to include the robust, and I touched on it earlier, outreach that we did with the Great Cuyo Park, because we really saw, the insights and recommendations from the outreach. One of those things was trails and preserving outdoor space. And what we really found with the outreach for Great Cuyo Park, that was also emphasized. So kind of extra emphasis on that. So as you can see, in the last 2 years, we've had 3 major community outreach and engagement. And it has just been such a pleasure to be able to do that and really take the time and resources. And again, we want to continue to engage always, but it was nice having really that focused effort to be able to communicate with our public. And so and part of this presentation is so that with some of these slides, this is going to keep us from having to go page by page in the plan that's in your packet too. So, so the proposed updates, kind of as a high level overview, we updated the strategic goals. Some of you were here for that, some of you weren't. We went from 7 to 5, we just sort of consolidated them. We have been updating the park's open space and facilities inventory. We're going to give it another fine tooth comb, look through and just make sure we're adding everything correctly. All of our percentages are correct. We updated the prioritized implementation actions. So those are the projects that you'll find at the end. And this is new from the last meeting, is that we're actually going to be doing a Parks Capital Improvement Program, or a PCIP. That is going to feed into a capital improvement program that the city is working on as a whole. And it'll also be used to update the city's capital facilities plan. But that city CIP is not ready yet. And so we are going to do an attachment, and I'll show you what that spreadsheet looks like. I'll pull that up next. We also added museum and cultural levels of service, which was something that wasn't in the plan before. So our museum curator has spent a lot of time doing that. It's a great addition to the plan, and Historical Commission, like I said earlier, has been involved with that. Some of the key goals and policy changes from last time. Well, this one's the same. We're continuing to emphasize Lacey moving from an acquisition phase to a development phase. And essentially Lacey has been so great at getting properties in different areas of the city. And you saw our level of service is very good. And so now if there's funding available, let's make sure people can get out there because we have parks that are undeveloped and we want people in their parks. Continuing to establish a funding strategy is going to remain a top theme. Providing accurate travel sheds on the park's level of service map, and I'll show you that once we get into the plan. Providing a map that indicates frequently traveled bus routes and proximity to parks as a starting point, so we can start to figure out how to increase access. And then moving forward, we want to, one of the policies we've indicated is conducting a deeper dive on parks and facility assessments and condition assessments, and to help make recreational value assignments in the future, which will help guide future investments. The other thing we've been working on is with the Commission on Equity is incorporating the diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan components into the plan. That's shaping up nicely. You hopefully saw some of that in the draft. We're also, this is different than the last time we talked. We're going to determine what metrics to gather to help with future decisions. We've pulled a couple of maps out that were in there last time with the socioeconomic mapping and the income level and also the cultures and ethnicities. So what we want to do, we've been talking with public affairs a little bit more. They are working on citywide standards and metrics that we can all use that are the same. So they didn't want us doing one thing and then having different things mapped out with different plans.
I see.
So really the focus right now is just what are those metrics that we want to use. And then in this plan, which we didn't have last time, is including a map of the non-city parks, green space and habitat to really show, in addition to the city facilities, what else does the community have out there that's run by HOA or state parks or DNR or the school district, right? And then adding sustainability practices that ensure the needs and desires of future generations will not be compromised. And so really with the proposed implementation actions, and this is going to morph into more of a spreadsheet, so you're going to see that change next time. Top line themes from the public: indoor pool, indoor playground, spray park. In terms of parks development, multi-use trails, always up there at the top. Lots of mention of disc golf, pickleball, pump tracks, and skate features. So under the parks development, the focus here on these items, and I can show you on the spreadsheet a little bit more. Also under indoor facilities, we have our Lacey Museum and Cultural Center project. We still have the potential for the indoor sports facility, pursuing that partnership with the Squally tribe based on feasibility studies that have been conducted. And then really indoor recreation is just a theme. So pursuing the potential for, whatever type of recreation center ends up being needed with the teen component added. And then in terms of sports fields, pursuing, really focusing on what we have, like the RAC Phase 3 that we talked about earlier. And Meridian Park is not finished. It's got sports fields that need to go in there so that kids from, the Northeast Lacey area don't have to travel across town for their soccer practice, for example. And really, and then I'll update you, we had our Parks Task Force meeting last Wednesday on April 26th, and we were able to confirm these priorities. And so that went really well. And they definitely, confirmed some of the things that we had in here. In terms of master planning, there has been a lot of context to us about the Meridian Campus North Park. It's a 5-acre park up further north than Meridian Park and the William Ives Trail. And then, as you know, we did have the acquisition of the Long Lake adjacent property. And so there needs to be a master plan done with the addition of that property and some of the improvements that are needed at that site. Researching and developing a plan for the future McKinney House. That one is on the Historical Commission work plan. And that's something that's been a long time need. And then these ones are more general, but just in terms of programming, being able to identify activity deficiencies and strategies to fill the gaps. We do also want to continue with our volunteer and volunteer stewardship programming. In terms of trails, continuing to coordinate with adjacent jurisdictions to continue working on the regional trail network. And we did get feedback at our Parks Task Force about the trails. And so we can share that with you in just a minute. In terms of our timeline, we're still on track. There's still a lot of work to be done, but really by the end of this month, we need to get it through city staff review and public review. Really, the Parks Task Force was the end of our formal public review, but of course, the public is always welcome to provide input on this plan. We need to get it through all advisory boards by mid-July so that it can make it through to council. I think I shared with you before, the Planning Commission are the ones who drive this process. They update all the comprehensive plan components at one time every year. And so ours will be one of those for this year. And so we're kind of at their discretion of when it goes. They would like to get it before the Planning Commission on June 20th. So that means tonight, and then we look at it again June 7th. And then if we need to make a special meeting, I would ask for that if at the June 7th meeting, the Parks Board is not feeling quite ready. So that's the timeline. And I'll pause there for any questions. And then I just have certain pages of the actual body of the comp plan that I wanted to show you.
McKinney House, refresh me, where's that at?
Oh, okay. So Woodland Creek Community Park? Do you know where the senior center is?
Yeah.
Okay, so right across Pacific Ave is the Lake Lois Habitat.
The building falling down?
Yes.
I drive by there and that whole header over that front entry, somebody's let the visqueen off. I don't think it's doing any good. That whole beam is rotten.
Yeah.
I can put my hand through it if I got up that high.
Yeah, it's not in good shape. It does have some historical components that can be salvaged. The Historical Commission just got a presentation on it at their last meeting. And so essentially I'm putting in a budget request for 2024, and that's due here in the next couple months to, we're gonna get a wetland delineation done, and we're gonna do a deep dive on what type of development could even happen at that site. And that'll be a first step to determine where to go from there.
What about just somebody coming in and evaluating the current needs so the building don't fall down?
Yeah, so the city staff did that. I'm trying to recall the year.
Well, they said that at this point, they're gonna have to reevaluate it from that joint commissioner meeting that we had, if I remember correctly, because I think he said.
Because so much time has passed.
Yeah, because it was like 2016
Yeah.
or something like that. It was outdated.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah,
did
so I
answer
mean,
this, so-
there's a potential for a public-private partnership potentially, or something that could be done. So that's, just the first step needs to be what could actually be done at the site, and then that'll dictate where to go from there.
Right.
So like the Lacey Depot, take it down at 3. Just do it as a. Be safe.
And just put a marker there.
Yeah.
This was the McKinney House.
Here lies the McKinney logs.
You can see her walk up and down the sidewalk all the time.
I'll let you duke it out with the historical commission on that one. Okay.
Guy that walks up and down and waves anyway.
That isn't him, no, it's another one.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to point out.
Good guy.
I'm like, "Hey,
He's no
it's
walk-
better than getting a finger, so I'm fine with it. I've seen homeless people ride down the street and go through a roundabout on a shopping cart, so that's an improvement.
Yeah.
So
It's all good.
I'm like, that's talent though. So,
I know.
It's too far down to Safeway. He's usually coming closer to Union Mills is when I see him. He's passing that every time I
I've
see him.
seen them like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He goes where, but he's going towards Union Mills. Usually, I guess every day I go the same time.
School was loving.
Hmm.
Walking by that Lutheran school.
Yeah.
So this is what I was alluding to. This is basically what the Parks Capital Improvement Program is going to look like. So I'm gonna take the section that you see implementation actions. I think that's gonna get combined into this spreadsheet, and so it'll appear like this. So some of those slides we went through with the projects, we will have the the location or the project listed here. We'll have potential funding sources in the next column, confirmed funding sources, project cost estimate for 2023, and then we will go out with our estimates through 2028, and there'll likely be just a inflation factor like 3% or something general like that, and it'll have a note on it as to what that is. And these are these are estimates only.
You're thinking about,
Um,
so kind of like the 6-year transportation plan where you're never gonna build all these things, but
yes.
we still wanna know what it's gonna cost.
Yes, that's correct. So there's a near term and a longer term. So it's 2023 through 2028 for this one. And then really the city's capital facility plan has the longer term stuff in it. So yes. That is, so it's gonna look differently, but it's gonna feed nicely, like I said, really well into the capital improvement plan for the whole city. So that's gonna be nice. And where? 1 second, let me share this screen. It's not coming up for me, is it? Oh, there it is, right, hiding down there at the bottom. Okay, so page 25 was the first thing I wanted to point out. Oh, but we didn't share the task force. Did Commissioner Wheeler or Chair Goodwin want to share any takeaways from the Parks Task Force meeting?
Yeah, I was gonna do it on my. fair
Oh, on your
report, but
report?
Yeah, I can do it on the fair report, or we can do it now.
Go for it.
So April 26th, we had the Park Task Force meeting. I thought it was very well organized by Jen, Sue, and Sarah, and thank you for providing light refreshments. It was really nice. It was late and I needed a snack, so thank you. There was great information provided and feedback from varied partnerships, which I really like that we had one. For instance, the YMCA was here. We had track and field from the North Thurston Public Schools, people who are in maintenance and all around Thurston County, or in Lacey. It was really nice just to get different perspectives from different partnerships that we have with Lacey and within Lacey. I thought it was interesting to hear about funding, sponsorships, and the perspectives of what community members need in our local area. So we broke into the groups, and it was really nice to see people that were interested in pools were working on what was going to be put out to the community, trails, sporting events, what were needed, and what the community members really wanted to showcase for the city of Lacey. So it was the task force did a great job with that. And everybody was very nice. We looked at the park map that you had as well, and I think that was something that a lot of the members were interested in, where all the 32 parks are located at and how to get to them. That was, I don't think everyone knows that there's 32 parks here and where they're all at. So it was interesting to showcase all of that work. And I want to thank you all for just inviting us to attend it. It was really nice having everybody there. But yeah, I did pools. So we had individuals who want to have the lap pool, very important. And then we have people that want to have it as a play area. So it was nice kind of giving feedback back and forth about making sure that we focus on what's greater good for the community. It's not personal. This is a professional for all community members. I think that was a nice, gentle reminder. We're trying to share a lot of the work because everything's expensive and partnerships are so critical right now. So it's just getting people engaged in that work. So I thought it was very well done. I don't know, did you have more, Commissioner Wheeler? Because I think you were on trails with Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing much more to add. I mean, it was good to work with other people's outside of the normal commission and hear other people's perspectives and yeah, I mean, there wasn't really much wrong, I think, with the initial plan. So, you know, I think a lot of us were just trying to think outside the box just to add additional, you know, input. But you guys already did a great job at providing a good comprehensive structure. So.
Thanks.
That was very.
Did you want to share takeaways?
I think it's pretty much what's covered. It was just a good group and a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion, so.
Yeah,
It's
one
very
of the things,
positive.
one of the things that came out of the sports group was the, you know, sports fields development was definitely reaffirming, you know, developing the fields that we already have property for. And that, that conversion from, you know, if we can get those conversions from grass to turf, it just extends the amount of time that people can use those fields. You get lights, then you can go into the evening, you know.
And I didn't know what a pump track was.
Oh,
So
pump
I-
track,
I
yeah.
got schooled on what that looks like, cause I thought it was some kind of widget or something that went
What is
into a faucet, a pump track.
I can Google it.
So that was, yeah, that was one of the pieces of advice is to explain what that is in the plan. So I thought that was a great idea.
I-
But it's basically, you can ride a scooter or a bike or like inline skates and it's kind of goes like this and you can go over it. There's one in Olympia down by, you know, where the fountain is, kind of by the Oyster House.
Yeah.
There's a pump track down there by the old KFC, if you've been around one
Oh, okay.
time.
Where they do the ice skating.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, and it's a very popular thing.
Is this map in our packet?
So yes, okay, so back to this, but yeah, thank you, I did wanna make sure and thank everybody that helped with the task force. I will be putting some of the input, expanding the public input section with the parks task force, the fact that we had it. So that wasn't in your update. So this one, yeah, this is one of the first things I wanted to show you. So this is the frequent, public transit. So we did add the actual bus stops. And those are in blue. And then the non-frequent stops are on here in a gray color. So we thought that that was a good addition.
So the blue is all the bus stops?
Blue is the frequent
Oh,
route
most
stops.
frequently used. Okay, sorry. This is the first time I'm seeing this. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Cause this is public transit.
Yeah, so it does show, you know, it shows how frequently the bus stops are. Then, so I went to the Commission on Equity, they were asking about, you know, where there are sidewalks and to kind of consider that for access in the future. And so I did have our GIS coordinator put a layer for sidewalks, but it's really busy. And so, but what I, since this point, found out, and I wanted to share this, also some of the input out of the Parks Task Force meeting was, you know, what does it look like for trail corridors that connect or people who use more for transportation purposes, they have e-bikes. So there is a fabulous bike and ped plan and there's maps and it shows all of this stuff. And so I'm just gonna refer to that plan in certain sections and infuse some of the goals from that plan into this one. So that's something that was sparked out of that task force meeting that I realized needs to be matched up as well. So I'm gonna take this one out and I'm gonna, again, refer to the other because it's got such great information and that's what it's really focused on is connectivity, access. So I thought that was a really good takeaway. And then page 34, make it busy for just a minute here. You'll notice all the museum stuff that was added in. Oh, so this is the DEI section in terms of strategic goal 5. And so I'm still working on this, but there's some great information. This is the core information here, the community access and engagement, the policies, programs and services, and then the livability portion. And then we have here determine what meaningful metrics to track to help make informed decisions and create equitable and sustainable practices. So kind of back to what I was stating earlier about the metrics. But in this section, instead of the policy being to incorporate all these, I'm actually just gonna take these and infuse them where they go. That makes sense. So that's gonna look different the next time you get it. Page 30. Oh yeah, that was the same thing, pages 35 and 36. And then. Oh, this is another thing for the local area history. So this was a comment, a land acknowledgement. So the city is actually working on one, the Commission on Equity. And so hopefully that will be done before this plan goes out. If so, we will insert that. And then the other thing we want to do for local area history is go ahead and add some of the indigenous activity that dates back before this. So we thought that would be a great addition. So our museum curator is working on that wording. So that'll be a change for the next one that you'll see. I think I told you with the inventory, we're still going through, and it was really messy how the mark changes were. Oh, levels of service. Okay. So this one's an important conversation, the level of service. So we saw, I spoke to the national level of service, and that's in terms of parks, but the local and state level of service. So there really isn't a required level of service standard. So because communities are so unique, it's up to us to really outline that level of service. And so what we currently have as our level of service is having a neighborhood park or trail within 1/2 mile of each resident and having a community park and or regional park in each of the 10 planning areas. And so when you read a lot of once you get to like all the different planning areas, the 10 planning areas, there's narrative on what's actually in that area and where there is lacking for this level of service. And that can help us make better future decisions. And so one of the things that we did, and I'll show you these maps next, is we indicated the 0.5 mile radius from our park locations. And I'll show you that. And so we can see where we need help in some of the different areas of Lacey. And then in terms of recreation and cultural level of service, again, there's no formal level of service. I get asked a lot, what is your level of service when it comes to programs and, cultural programs and recreation programs? There's no set level, but what we do is we want to be able to adapt to emerging community needs. We want to fill gaps that other organizations are not providing. So that helps define what our level of service is. Provide and support recreation and cultural programs that are socially responsible, economically accountable, and equitable. And then we have ways to do this in the policies and objectives section of the plan. We talk about how important it is for community feedback. We've talked a lot about significant partnerships. You just said it earlier, together we can do more for our community. So we do outline, our joint use agreement with Northwestern Public Schools. We also talk about our athletic field shortage and some of our needs there in our level of service section. We also have museum level of services. Again, there is no formal level of service, but these are some standards. And the cool thing is they matched up with our museum strategic plan. So we noted that as well. Okay, I want to show you the maps. They're still being worked on, but they have been worked on since the last time you saw them. So this is Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Park and Facilities Overview. And so we have them numbered, so it's 35.
35.
So the map that we actually had is not updated. So
Yes.
that's what I've been saying. We've been going through, and actually we still need to add one, and it's called Arbors Park. that's still missing. So like I said, we've been going through with fine tooth comb. That's actually a park that we lease. City owns it, but it's leased to the HOA to operate.
So these are all going to be Lacey managed parks. that
On
we're
this
putting-
one, yes, on this one. But so what we're doing, so we show where everything is, we label it on the map. Then we show the access travel shed. And remember, these are more accurate from the last plan. Last plan was just a bubble, but there were like bodies of water or private properties. You couldn't actually access it. So that's why these are so funny looking, the shapes. But what'll happen is this is gonna be, these maps, these two maps will be side by side. So we aren't going to label these facilities again because you'll be able to see it right next to it. So it'll be right here. And then you can really see with our travel sheds, you can see where our gap is. It's really easy to see, right? But what we'll also show are that there are some other facilities available to people too. And so what that'll be is, this isn't labeled correctly. This is actually being worked on, but this will show all non-city. And so it'll be labeled in the same exact pattern. It'll have all of them labeled, and then side by side to it will be the travel sheds. And they will look more like the gray ones that you saw with the parks, city-owned facilities, and they'll be color-coded as to what they are. So this one's not finished yet. And then we're going to do a combined altogether. So you'll be able to see travel sheds for, you know, everything that's in Lacey.
Will be all overlaid.
Yeah, together. So that's something that you'll get to see next time. So,
I am so excited.
yeah, so those are the portions I want to show you, but certainly open to feedback, questions.
And how will we disseminate that? Are we gonna have things to put out from the travel sheds and where people can go to and how far they are you gonna partner with intercity transit so people know where everything, how do we present it?
Well, so all of this information will be in the comprehensive plan update, and then it's up to us how we want to disseminate information. We have a marketing committee amongst our staff. And so one of the things I've been thinking about is having that as a regular update, just like you do at the end of the meetings. That can be
I
part
would
of the
love to be
director's
like,
report.
as a public person, I'm like, here, this is all our stuff and this is how you get there. So it's convenient as a resource, especially like people that are brand new moving into our area, that we can just hand something to them. In a form.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we have done so much and we do so great with our marketing. I also think there's a lot more we can do. And we always, amongst our staff, we talk about baby steps, you know,
Yeah.
like we can't snap our fingers and have everything be perfect, but we can take steps to get better.
So one of the things too is we get so ingrained into our programs and marketing that stuff that we really don't do a good job marketing our parks. And getting that information out, seems to get missed.
I would love to do it. I'll be a part of it. I'll walk door to door, put it in I'll put them on the people's mailbox. I'll get my mailbox worked. Yes, you tell me where to go. I'm excited. Thank you.
Any other questions or
Thank you.
comments? It's coming right along.
Looks really good.
Thanks. It's a big project.
All right.
No
ready
action for tonight for this one.
Okay, anything else? And we're moving on. I'm lost. I don't know where I am. We did the financial, the 8B, the Lacey Park Culture Recreation Enhancement Program Policy. This is an action item.
Yes, okay, so this has been a long time coming. We put the old policy in your packet, but since it was such a major overhaul, we didn't include the tracked change version because you can hardly read it. It's so marked up and moved around. So let me share. Still in the comp time here. Look away so you don't get nauseous. Oh, is that not, oh. Oh, you guys still tell me when to look. Okay.
Tell me when to look.
Any documents, okay, well. Probably search. Jeez.
Won't be a camber. See, a branch fell on my head and smacked my arm and my knees messed up again.
No. Okay, so that's the old one. Okay, so the new one, you're almost ready to look. Okay. That one at first. Okay, you can look.
The tree fell, or not the whole tree, but a tree branch was. And this is, I have a big.
I have to see.
And they did heal some hands 2 times.
Like this.
So, oh.
I was at Cape Flattery.
It'd be so great to have the new parks planner so that you don't always have to hear from me. Okay, so like I said, long time coming. We are so fortunate. We have community groups and members that want to be involved in parks. They want to give us stuff and it's just amazing. We're so grateful for that. In the last few years, we have received many requests and it just kind of brought forth the concept that really, you know, we've been lacking a more formalized way to review things that want to be given to the parks and culture and recreation system. And also we want a really fair process so that all, you know, proposals or requests are being reviewed in the same way. We need better communication to you all, the Parks Board, and really a better description of what types of donations and also pointing out the implications and really impacts really on staff time and city resources that sometimes something that's donated can create and kind of what's, you know, needed in association with that type of a donation or contribution. So the old policy was pretty parks focused. We wanted to include the entire operation of the department. And so we were able to put in here you know, our kind of what the department is all about in the purpose. We put in here our vision, which we just went through in the comp plan, that we're fortunate to receive these donations and really it needs to take into consideration capacity and potential impact. And so but I do want to point out that there are some projects that have already been discussed. So for example, the Girl Scout, there's a Girl Scout group that came to the Parks Board in 2021 and asked about doing a little library kiosk that they would refill and keep it clean and everything at Wonderwood Park. And the Parks Board did give the approval for that to move forward. Well, unfortunately, we didn't really have a policy to make that happen. And so that's one of the reasons this has been created and is coming before you. And that one, I don't think we should have them since it's been so long. They still want to do the project. I don't think we should have them fill out a request form. So there'll be a couple things like that before this policy was enacted that we'll just need to kind of get through the pipeline there. So anyway, so we have the purpose, we have a policy statement. You know, that they'll be approved and accepted only if they further the goals and objectives of the city as outlined in the comprehensive plan that we just took a look at. Enhancement requests that will increase labor, materials and or maintenance costs will only be approved if the proposing party addresses the challenges associated with labor, materials or maintenance through, and these are the different ways that we partner with groups, maintenance agreement, sponsorship agreement, or MOU outlining the terms for the support of the project. We do have a definitions section to define the enhancements. So they're donations that complement Lacey Parks are compatible with programs and facilities and further the goals. They may include monetary gifts, land or property, amenities, equipment, benches, flagpoles, signage, plants, and or other special projects like the kiosk that I just mentioned. The enhancements committee is defined by a committee led by the director or designee, which includes the Public Works Parks Maintenance Supervisor or his designee, and at least one additional parks staff. The committee will review enhancement applications for feasibility and relevance to the goals of Lacey Parks. And then if a partner organization is involved, for example, Senior Services or Northwestern Public Schools, a representative from that organization may be added to the committee for review. We define a commemorative bench. We define a person. It's the same definition that you all reviewed during the sponsorship policy update. So you'll probably remember we're trying to use the same language across all of our policies. We define what we say recognition is, and then we also define a restricted fund, which is a special revenue fund. It's set up and assigned a project code through our city's financial system, which allows the fund to be used for a specific purpose and to accept donations for that purpose from multiple donors, for example, a memorial fund. Restricted funds can be carried over to future years of the city's budget. And we do have some projects like that, you know, if they can't be completed within that year, they get carried over because they have a specific intent. So the review process here, as proposed, is an application. The requesting party must submit to our department a enhancement request form. So that's an attachment, and we'll get there next, to have the project considered. If the proposing party is a group, then we, you know, name one person as the official contact to make it easier. Requests will be reviewed in August and February each year by the enhancements committee. And then we just point out here for a land donation, it's got a different process to see section 5. And really the reason for this is that staff get a lot of things thrown at them. And when there's already work plans existing, it's really hard to shuffle. You know, when things come in, something else drops because there aren't additional staff added. And so this was, you know, in our internal discussions, this was a way that we say, great, thank you so much for submitting this. That's going to get its first review in, you know, so right now, if we got one, it would be in August. And then after that process, we would say, great, we will hold on to this and we'll review it in February. So after final approval by the Parks Board, the Enhancements Committee will provide the applicant with an intended project timeline. Yeah, so essentially what would happen is that so the staff would give it the first review and then bring the ones that should move forward to the Park Board for review. So that's what this one is speaking to. After final approval by the Parks Board, the Enhancements Committee will provide the applicant with an intended. So to be accepted, so here's the guidelines. An enhancement must be given with no contingencies or obligations. It must comply with our sponsorship and naming rights policy if that's applicable. Requesters may indicate a preferred location for the enhancement. However, the final location is subject to approval by the committee. All enhancement locations must comply with relevant rules and regulations of any impacted entities at all levels of authority. Regarding recognitions, the enhancement committee will include the recognition wording for a proposed enhancement being recommended to the Parks Board. If it's applicable, all costs for recognitions will be incurred by the requester, including necessary replacement costs. And then all recognitions will be removed if and when the enhancement or donation is no longer serviceable or not maintained as agreed upon. For land donations, they will be carefully reviewed, and increased maintenance and other costs to the city must be considered. A letter should be submitted to the Parks Director, which includes the purpose for the donation, the address and or parcel number for the property, a brief description of the property and its condition. And then these will be reviewed by the Parks Director, Public Works Director, because Public Works oversees park maintenance, and the city manager, and a recommendation would be made to you all to accept a land donation into the park system. And then there's a special section for benches. And so we do indicate that the person or event must be or have been related to Lacey Parks or the local community. The benches are paid for by the requester if they're approved. There's 3 design options. So if it's just a bench, someone just wants to donate a bench, there's no commemoration involved. It's a park standard bench, and this outlines what that is. If it's a commemorative bench, there's 2 choices. There's the Premier Memorial Bench. Or it's basically our standard bench with a plaque that's inserted. So 2 different options for folks to choose from if they want to honor somebody with a bench. And then what'll happen is upon completion of all the listed criteria, an invoice is generated for the requester, including the price, delivery cost, sales tax, concrete, if concrete needs to be laid for the bench, installation fees by city staff if applicable, and then recognition if that's part of it. And then ordering and installation of the bench would be upon receipt of the full amount listed on the invoice. Once it's complete, the bench will be maintained by Public Works Parks Maintenance staff until it's deemed unserviceable, at which point it would be removed. Since this is a comprehensive policy for our department, we have the Lacey Museum collections in here because we do get donations of that sort, but the authority for the acquisition of the collections rests with the Lacey Historical Commission in partnership with the museum curator as outlined in the Lacey Museum Policy Manual. So as such, the museum curator will make decisions about acceptance of items for the collection subject to review by the commission, and that's a large part of her job. Monetary gifts and donations may be given by any person and are not subject to the enhancement review request review. Monetary gifts are not associated with a specific project, facility, or program unless specified by the donor. Non-specific donations will be designated at the discretion of the director or designee. And then monetary gifts that are given with specifications will be reviewed and approved by the director or designee. The decisions will be reported to the Parks Board at the next available meeting. Fund balances should be designated as restricted, and that goes back to that description of what the restricted funds are. So what this does is it allows us to continue with business, but report back to the Parks Board. Regarding public art, Lacey City Council retains final authority on selection and placement of art in all city-owned properties, so that includes parks. And we refer to the policy, public art proposed in a park or facility may go before the Parks Board. I think it's preferable that it goes before the Parks Board and or Historical Commission for a recommendation to City Council, but they do have the final say for art. So I know it's a lot of information, but happy to answer questions, comments about the enhancement policy.
So for the benches, the ones that are commemorative, you say at the bottom, related policy, sponsorship and naming rights policy. I'm assuming you're gonna run it through that policy first because
Yes.
you just have a bold statement that just says, have to be a member of the community. We may not want that member of the community's name on a bench.
Right,
It doesn't meet the other standards.
the other standards, that's correct, yes.
And then I'm not an environmentalist person, but whenever I see policies like this that don't mention like climate change or sustainability or those types of things, it does cause me a little concern because somebody may want to donate some great jungle gym that's made out of some material that is horrible for the environment. Yeah, and I know you're gonna do a safety and a maintenance review because we don't want to get stuff that's just junk or it's not gonna be fixed well, but it almost feels like if somebody's gonna donate stuff that you should look at it and run it through some sort of other, maybe the city doesn't have a climate action plan. You know, maybe you're not looking for things like that. I mean, when I was hearing you talk about the fields and you want to go to artificial and take away the grass. I don't know if those are impervious surfaces. I don't know what the materials are made of. I don't know if when you have to pull an old one out, dispose of it. What do? Does it go to the landfill? Do you recycle it? I'm just wondering if maybe there's another city policy that you reference whenever you do accept a donation that's of an item.
Those are good points.
That wouldn't that go along with the policy for sponsorship? that we just went through and did that whole policy after Chick-fil-A? I mean, that kind of stays in line with that.
Yes, the sponsorship portion, absolutely, and it
That's
would
what
be
I'm saying.
reviewed.
That is the.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
climate, but the sustainability and climate, so it's almost like it belongs here. So, we talk about enhancement requests that will increase labor, materials, or maintenance costs. Could be some wording added, and impact and environmental impact
Should be considered.
should be considered. I think that's a great addition to the plan.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions?
55, yeah.
Yeah, we can put old tires out there for you.
And just to the playground,
Bamboo that you'd love to have planted in a park.
Mhm. That'd be great.
Yes.
we do recycle whenever possible, and then with the playground, I know that was just a hypothetical example, but just so you know, we wouldn't take an old playground.
This is
But
lead based.
just for safety reasons alone, but
Teeter totter?
Painted in
With
lead
spinning
based.
away.
Yeah, the spinning away, oh my God.
But it has to go through quite a few committees too, right? I mean, you can't just do it. We have to look at it and review it, which we've
Yeah.
done before. For that, a piece of art that was donated and it was like, how much is it gonna move?
Yeah.
That piece of artwork. So I think it goes through, right?
Right. That's a great example of, yep.
Like, that's.
Question,
Yes.
when you have, obviously you got a lot of playground equipment through the district, do you have a playground committee that reviews it for safety and recommendation?
Our parks maintenance, one of our lead techs is a certified playground inspector.
Some of the folks out at the RAC, I know that Julie and Julio are. And so they inspect stuff on a regular
Playground
basis.
equipment.
Oh, Julie's certified too? And Julio, cool.
I think Julio is.
Yeah, so, and then that capital improvement program that I was talking about, that's gonna help us to keep better track of things that are coming up in the future that might be past warranty and need safety upgrades. Any other questions on this one? Would you consider approving as amended?
With the amended
The
items
addition?
for the
Yeah.
additions for the environmental piece. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the LPCR enhancement program policy with amendments as noted about the environment. All those in favor? Or just?
I'll second the motion.
That's okay. One day I'll have this. Did I do the motion part? You seconded. Now we're gonna go, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Any further discussion? Hearing none. A motion, or we move to,
Motion carries.
motion carries.
Yep.
Can I just say motion carries? Okay, and moving on to financial assistant program change.
Okay, I'm very sorry to bring this one back. We had something come up. As you know, you approved it last. I know it's very minor, but we did find that some of the dates that were in here were a barrier, could potentially be a barrier for those who need financial assistance. So we wanted to simply remove, I'm not gonna go through the policy since we did spend so much time on it last time. So basically just under the procedure section, we will say applications will be open 4 weeks before registration dates and just strike those dates, and the same thing in the other section. So upon further review, staff realized that could be a barrier, so would definitely ask for approval of the updated.
So you want a motion to
policy.
approve the amendments, or do you want the whole thing reapproved?
As amended.
No, you would just, you would approve the updated financial assistance policy. Or approve the proposed. Either way works.
With amendments, because the amendments are.
Well, no, I just showed you the track
No,
changes,
sure.
so I would basically just accept those, yeah. Yep.
Approved, yes. Show.
Cause
Yeah, and no, either way it works.
We approved it based on changing the name to financial assistance, right?
That's right, and you'll see it, we did change that, we changed it on
It's on
some of
the
our
website, I
marketing and
saw
on the
it.
website, yeah. We put it really big on the kiosk signs that are gonna go out, so That was
And
great.
that was that was accepted.
Yeah.
Everybody was okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
So, I motion to. Okay, is that right? I motion
Or
to, I move to approve the financial assistant program changes. As. We just saw,
You could just say that, update, yeah, the updated policy.
as updated policy, yes. All those in favor? Oh, I need a second.
I'll second.
Second, okay, second has been done. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any further discussion? Hearing none? We move to approve.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. I don't know, motion to approve. I'm just gonna write it on my arm.
Motion.
For our mayor, and she just literally reads it, you know, so she doesn't even have to think.
Yeah, write me. a
And it's in
script.
different colors too.
No, I can, I'll do it one day. I'll do it.
You're gonna get it down because you're running for governor. And they leaving us.
No, you're chairing next time, Gary.
No.
All right, so we're moving on to Sports Commission under Director's Report. Nothing, okay. Anything, programs and special events?
The only thing, most of them were in your packet. The regional athletic complex didn't get there in time. Sean, one of the things that Sean wanted me to point out was that between January and April, we had 22 total tournaments, including 2 ultimate and 1 soccer, with a total of 761 teams. There was 208 April softball bookings.
Wow.
That was just in April. From January to April, he booked the field 669 times. And there was 146 April bookings, individual bookings for soccer. January to April, he had 328. So there's a lot of, still continuing to get a lot of use. We've got a bunch of big tournaments coming up. We have the high school championships and youth baseball tournament coming up. Al Ripken's year-end tournament is in May. We've got the WIAA 3A fast pitch also coming up in May. The other notable thing, not referring to the RAC, but our first day registration was last Wednesday. We brought in just under $51,000 in revenue that first day. Of that, 48,645 was from the web. So that's huge. And then the next 2 consecutive days were $10,000 days, just shy of 10,000 each day, with right around 8,000, a little bit over 8,000 of that coming from the web. So we're getting, a huge influx from the web, where 5-10 years ago it was the other way around. So people are definitely embracing our website and having that access. That's it.
Thank
And I'll
you.
add just real quick, Lacey Spring Fun Fair
That's kind of,
is coming, yeah, and that's it's in your packet, but just want to mention it. And Jeanette says thank you to those who offered to help, and she still has space if anybody else wants to volunteer.
Which
Yeah.
one?
Lacey Spring Fun Fair.
Yeah, I can.
And she'll
Jeanette.
tell us what time and what we're doing? Is that who will?
Yeah, you can
Yes.
choose your time when she'll send like a link and
Oh.
you can choose your time.
Yeah, do you need to connect with Jeanette?
I sent an email to someone, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe to Sarah, but you haven't heard anything from Jeanette? Okay, I will follow up because Sarah's out of town, so, yeah.
And I didn't hear back. Jeanette said I was supposed to do something special, which I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Pose for pictures.
You're pretty good at that.
Mhm.
Okay.
No, but if Jeanette would let me know. Yeah, Jeanette, have her reach out to both. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so in the interest of time, a bunch of my other stuff can wait till next time. I will, but I do want to announce something very exciting under miscellaneous. Our new senior parks planner position has been posted. And so that's gonna be open until May 29th, and that's going to be a full-time staff that is going to be helping a significant amount with the Parks Board and giving a lot of the project updates and really helping with project management. So I'm very, very, very excited for this position. It's been a long time coming, and So if you know of anybody, it's on the website. And I can send you the link if you want to forward it to anybody, but
Can I
that's
apply?
very exciting.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't be on the board anymore, though.
Your spare,
Okay.
in your spare time.
Aw, you just.
I have a lot of spare time.
You do?
Trouble most of the time.
Oh, that I believe. That I believe. Will they do tutorials on Robert?
That's what I would do.
All right, so is that everything for, okay, commissioners report, anybody? Commissioner?
Go Krakens.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody told me they want skate park and rack. That's not the guy at Subway. Across the street.
They what now?
Skate park added to one of the open spaces over there, cause Renere Vista is usually busy, but no, that was all I got told by the guy at Subway.
I have friends from Tumwater who drive to Rainier Vista for the skate park.
I got a quick question. What
It's
about that
busy.
parking lot improvement at Tarak? What is that?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I wish I had an exact answer for you soon. It's gonna be going out. Have you heard anything?
Is that gonna conflict with all the events?
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yep.
So you're gonna work.
I hope they keep delaying it for a couple more months. Because if we could delay it till August, it would be optimal. If they start it in the middle of July, we're just gonna be sunk.
What am I gonna tell you to do, Gary?
Sure.
Huh?
So what?
Take the bus. Then you don't have to worry about parking.
Oh, take the bus.
He got mad at me. He said, asked if I had investment. I said, my tax dollars.
One of my work.
It's worse.
You're like, do you have stock in public transit?
Yeah, then my taxes. It's public. So let's go. Okay, moving on, chair report. So I went to Earth Day at Wonderwood Park on April 22nd. I wanted to thank Lindsay for hosting that event with us, and Lions Club was there, and Cynthia Pratt was there.
Nice.
So they handed out food and t-shirts, and it was absolutely wonderful, and we planted the Oregon grape. So I want to say thank you, and thank you for all the snacks they provided. And we removed holly and ivy, and it was multiple truckloads, so that was great.
More Oregon grape. I got a lot of it.
Yep, Dr. Lindsay's group organizes what we can plant in there. We got the cedar still growing. Western cedar, so
Is Oregon grape a tree or a bush?
It's a
Fine.
bush, kinda
bush.
pretty.
Yeah, it's got a bright yellow flower on it right now. Bright yellow. It's very, very pretty. Don't confuse it with holly. Don't pick the Oregon grape.
Okay.
Yeah, holly's fine. April 24th, I sent photos to Sarah regarding the signage for Lois Lake Launchers and Wonderwood. So all those photos went to her.
Okay.
So that we can move on. Lake Lois, yeah, I don't know if you saw some of them, but yeah. For the signage. We've been helped with signage.
Oh.
Okay, and then I already talked about the task force, and then the May tour date, which we're asking about for Great Cuyo Park. So I think Sarah should have sent out an email. Please let me know, commissioners, if you did not receive it, for dates to select.
She did.
It was May 24th, 5th, 26th, and the 30th. 25th, 26th, or 30th. So please respond to Sarah and let her know.
Yeah, and actually, she's out of town, so
Poor Jamie.
does the 30th work for everybody? That works for Jamie Oakland, he said.
I can make it work, I think.
That would work.
The 30th is the only day that works for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
winner.
Me
Okay.
too.
Oh, great.
30th.
Okay.
What time?
All right, so
I'll get back on that.
I'll help get that going since she's gone.
Thank
so.
you. I
Yep.
appreciate it. So the 30th it is, and then we'll get back in touch because we've got to work with Glynis, Jamie, making sure the time is available to unlock the park and then get wildlife there. So, and then we won't get lost now.
We should just go together.
Northeast, not south.
I ended up over by the fairgrounds, so like, that's where it took me. Like,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you get to the right location.
It's the Northeast Carpenter, so make sure your date says Northeast Carpenter, and then that is all I have. Yes. All right, that being said, we are ready to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? Oh, yes.
I have one quick question. This may be silly, but the park for the future Meridian Campus North has a new sign, Adopt a Park program. What is that?
So does it say adopt a park or adopt a trail?
Adopt a Park program.
Al Schumacher?
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I've never heard of that, and I just thought.
Would you like to adopt a park?
He's already adopted this one.
Yeah, but do you want to adopt a park?
It is a person.
Al Schumacher.
Yes, we have adopt a park and adopt a trail. And so it's interesting though, this is the Meridian Campus North.
Cause I'm
I need
part
to
of,
ch-
I'm sorry, go
I need
ahead.
to check into this one.
Okay, can you get back to me?
Yeah, cause this park isn't open yet,
Right.
so I will check.
Because
Right.
Al and I have some really good ideas of what we want in the park,
Okay,
so I'm
Yeah.
not sure how we present.
Just go up Carpenter Road, just put my sign up wherever I want.
Yeah.
well, also, let me look into this.
I was surprised, I've never knew it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this and
And I've been trying to call Al, he's not picking up. so.
okay, yeah, let me look into this and we can also put this particular item on a future agenda to look at.
Yeah, cause I saw.
In the, yeah,
Yeah. it's like-
it basically needs a master plan.
What are you
and
guys
funding.
thinking?
It needs funding.
I think,
to open,
I think
so.
Launchers has one as well. I've heard,
was gonna give you that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's on the front end.
This part is not open, so I'm not sure what they're.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, here's. So, anyway, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
is there any?
We don't need a motion to adjourn, so you can just adjourn.
Is there nothing further? Everybody's happy? Yes. Okay, 8:05. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Did you want us to hand these out?
If you would